Hello, my name is David Hoffman and I am Beaumont's senior instructor in our Plastics Professional Continuing Education courses, and I want to talk to you a little bit about our program here. And first of all, I wanted to talk to you about why we got into our education program. So first we had to identify some needs, and one of the needs that we came up with was there's too much follow the leader in the industry. And what we mean by that is a lot of times you go to a training course and you're listening to the instructor up there and he's giving you procedures to follow and so on, and you're following those procedures. Well, we try to get people to think for themselves so that they can see if the instructor, the leader, is kind of taking them up the wrong path, or if they should maybe choose an alternate path and have that ability to think and choose for themselves. Second is there's a lot of molding myths and old habits in the industry. Take, for example, something as simple as a runner design. So here we show an X-pattern runner design, say maybe for an 8-cavity mold. Most people would consider this geometrically balanced, but in fact it is not, because plastic does not flow simply on center lines. You got to put some geometry to this, and when you do that, you'll find that there is actually a shorter flow path to the inside gates here, which creates a natural imbalance in the mold, and yet we see this all the time. People are designing in variation into their molds. So we want to educate our students on things like this so they can stop designing in variations and help make the downstream processing and part quality go a lot smoother. Another need that we've identified is there's a huge communication gap in this industry. Okay, so take, for example, I like to use this cartoon in a lot of our courses to kind of drive a point home. So say over here we got our Six Sigma black belt quality inspector. Okay. He comes out to the process engineer and says, okay, we only got two good cavities out of this 4-cavity mold. Why? What's wrong with your process? The process says, well, hold on. He goes, I followed all my step procedures, everything I learned in process training. I did this, I did this, I did this. It can't be my process, it's got to be the tool. And the mold maker's in the background saying, it's not my tool. I machined everything to exact tolerances. It's got to be your process. And the finger pointing goes back and forth. Okay, now each one of these people have a specific job function, okay? But they all overlap in one area, and that's plastic flow. And nobody up here is talking about plastic flow. What's the first thing they jump to? The process. Why? Because we think we can fix everything with a process. But in fact, not everything can be, nor should be, fixed with a process change. Second is, okay, or another option here is, why Beaumont? Why come to Beaumont for our continuing education courses? There's a lot of other trainers in the industry, so I want to give a little background about who we are. We're a team of plastics engineers who are focused on the injection molding industry with a lot of extensive experience. Probably about 90% of the people you're going to talk to in this company are degreed plastics engineers out of the Penn State program. And we focus on plastic flow, a fairly in-depth understanding of plastic flow, and that allows us to offer insight and knowledge to our students that many others can't offer. We have extensive experience in mold and part design, processing, mold filling simulation, product development, and so on. And our president and CEO, John Beaumont, helped design and build the plastics engineering program at Penn State University, the Barron College here in Erie, Pennsylvania. Okay, so he's bringing a lot of that information and know-how in designing a course, an education course that can help better fit the needs of our students. Another reason of why come to Beaumont for your continuing education in plastics, we focus more on upfront plastics engineering versus only downstream process training. Okay, and that's part of the Beaumont difference. We certainly understand the process side of things. We can teach the processing. We incorporate the processing in each one of our courses. But it's not the only thing you need to know in this industry. Take, for example, if you have leaves, say you got a tree in your yard and you got leaves falling off the tree. And let's relate those leaves to your molding defects. Okay, so those are your defects. Those are things that you're not going to be able to sell. What do you typically do to try to relieve those? Well, people try to inject faster, slower, add more cooling time, less cooling time. They'll block cavities. They'll do a lot of trial and error, send the mold back to the tool shop and hope they fix it. What we want to focus on is the root cause. Why are the leaves falling off the tree in the first place? Is it the mold design, the part design, the mold build, the rheology of the plastics, or maybe it is process related? And if we can get to that root cause, that's going to allow that tree to grow And as your tree grows, that's going to increase your profits. Another aspect of why coming to Beaumont, education versus training. Okay, we don't teach you just step-by-step procedures. You got to follow these procedures one by one, and that's what you do for every project. Rather, we educate you on things, on why things are happening. So, take this analogy here. Teach a man to fish, and you feed him for a lifetime. But we're not only going to teach you how to fish. We're going to educate you on the different types of fish, the different types of bait, and when to use certain bait in certain situations so that you can catch more fish in the long run. As an example, say you got a plastic part that's warping. Okay, this plastic part here is warped. Normally what's going to happen on the shop floor, somebody's going to look at that and they're going to call in their professional button pusher and they're going to start hitting buttons on the machine in hopes of solving the problem. What we do is help you understand the process side, how the velocity profile is changing through that part, and how that velocity profile affects the temperature of the material through the part, and how that temperature profile could lead to different warpage scenarios so that you can come to a root cause and you're not just randomly pushing buttons, but you're rather developing a critical thought process to solve problems rather than put band-aids on them. Another thing we do in our education program is challenge industry norms. The rules of thumb, the procedures that are out there in the industry that people follow, but usually don't question. Well, we question them. Okay, we want to see what value does it bring? Is there any science behind it or not? Or do we just do it just to do it? And ultimately, hopefully find, is there a better way? Okay, we don't want to be complacent. We always want to change things, challenge things, get people to improve and step out of the comfort zone a little bit by giving them some knowledge and insight into the plastic world. And we kind of see ourselves as a bridge between current industry training and a university-level plastics engineering program. Okay, we can't offer you a 4-year degree, okay, but we see ourselves a little bit more than just standard training classes. We're giving you that background, that knowledge on why things happen. We've had people come through these courses that have gone through the plastics engineering program, and they learn a lot. Why? Because we dive into things more deeper than you would see typically at a university level, simply due to time constraints. Okay, so we can dive into things more deep and provide more information and insight into why things are happening, give people a different thought process and a different way to go about their job function. Now, as part of our professional education courses, we've developed a series of 7. Okay, there's 7 different courses, and they range anywhere from mold startup, debug, and qualification, which talks about mold startup procedures, mold bench test procedures, but we also get into a little bit more on what we call flow grouping. We also have courses on hot and cold runner systems, anything from sizing cold runner systems to gate locations, different types of hot runners, gating strategies, and so on, and helping you choose the right system from an economical standpoint and from a design standpoint. Another course that we have here is strictly for those involved in quality control and quality assurance, and this kind of goes back to bridging the gap, the communication gap that I talked about earlier. People in quality control or quality assurance oftentimes are trying to communicate with processors and mold makers and designers and relate the problems that they're seeing, and when they talk to those folks are often talking to them back in a plastics language that they may not understand. So we want to educate those involved in quality control about plastics and rheology and injection molding so that they can communicate better with their peers. Another course is understanding shrink and warp, which is a very difficult subject. It's not something easy to understand, but we try to break it down on simple terms, and if we can understand the simple terms and why plastics warp and how they shrink and the stresses involved and the different types of shrinkage and warp, we can help them develop a thought process when troubleshooting those problems. Our Mold Design for Project Engineers course, very popular course for us because it hits all aspects of the molding industry. Talks a little bit about materials and rheology, talks about processing, and then focuses more on mold design and all the aspects that go into that, from shrinkage to draft to parting lines, ejection systems, cooling systems, melt delivery systems, and so on. The course here, Plastic Flow and Design Essentials for Mold Makers. This course was developed specifically out of feedback from people sitting in our other courses. saying that, boy, mold makers and designers need to understand this stuff. They're usually very good at cutting steel and designing a mold structurally, but they often maybe don't fully understand what they do in terms of manufacturing tolerances and gate locations and cooling strategies, how that impacts plastic flow in the final molded part. And the last course here is understanding and applying flow simulation. This course itself doesn't teach you how to run simulation, but rather teaches you the different options for simulation. We don't focus on any one program. We pick on them all, okay? But it's what they can do and what they can't do. It's both the capabilities and limitations of the software, and also how to interpret results. So if you're having an analysis done and you're sitting across the room or across the internet and listening to somebody try to explain the results, that you have a better understanding of what they're talking about so that you can ask questions and provide better information to them to make the analysis hopefully give you better results. What we're doing with our clients also these days is helping them invest in the future. So they come to us and they say, boy, you got a nice selection of courses here, but we really don't know what we need to do. Can you help us develop a plan? And so we started working with them in developing an employee continuous education and training plan. And what they'll do is they'll send us key job functions. And we'll look at those job functions as if those people were working for us and say, okay, if this person's working for me, I'm going to give them a list of required courses that they have to take because they're going to be able to do their job better. Then if they want to continue their education, there's going to be some recommended courses, ones that maybe aren't as critical but would provide some additional insight into some things and just reinforce their learning process. We'll help determine the rotation schedule based on our in-class schedules or that are currently publicly available, or if we need to hold specific training courses that are closed to the public but open to their employees of their particular company. What they like about this is it helps them get their employees up to speed quicker, rather than relying on internal resources and draining that and saying, okay, you're going to go sit over here with this person for a few days and that person's already busy. Now he's got to sit and train this person what he knows about plastics and rheology and design and so on. Rather, they can come to here, get kind of removed from the day-to-day grind and kind of focus on this information for a few days and get up to speed quicker through this rotation program, and that'll help them become more efficient within their company faster than using the internal resources. Thank you for taking your time to listen, and hopefully you consider us as your company's partner for your continuing plastics education needs. For more information, please visit our website.